can have the floor for the majority of this meeting, and I am looking forward to hearing what you all have to say on this topic. So quick agenda. First, we will review the key characteristics of successful Hartford Performs programs. Then I'll introduce our panelists and show you how to access that Mentimeter link as we create a collective definition of holistic teaching together as Hartford Performs teaching artists. And at the end, we'd like to show you some of the new database features that we've been working on to improve your user experience. So if you have any questions or comments as we go along, Emily and Ree will be with you in the chat. And of course, notes and the recording will be sent out after the meeting. So these key characteristics came from Hartford Performs' adoption of a new strategic plan, mission, and core values, as well as teacher feedback from the student program evaluation survey. These 4 areas were identified as characteristics that most programs embodied and could be measured and implemented regardless of artist or art form. So the purpose is really to elevate programming for students and learn from one another. Looks like my slideshow is really excited to get started with the panel. So this is going to be multi-year learning series. And of course, you can watch the past recordings for more. In our last meeting, we looked at re-engaging with teachers and students, your professional responsibilities to Hartford Performs or the programs you offer, and our human responsibilities to give credit to the cultures, the language, the stories, and music that we introduce in the classroom. So today we want to dive into holistic teaching and work toward a collective definition of what it means to teach the whole child through your arts programming and presence in Hartford schools. So we started with examining how your programs promote positive character development and habit building, contribute to social emotional learning, encourage questioning or curiosity for students. But we think there is more to it, to this definition. So we really want your input on that. So before we dig in, you may have seen this Mentimeter link in the flyer invitation to start gathering words or phrases. But if you have not contributed yet, you can scan this QR code in this lower right using your phone camera. You just like wave it over the QR code and it'll take you to the link. Or if you have the QR code reader on your phone, you can use that as well. And we'll put the web link in the chat. So if you prefer to open it in another browser tab, that's totally fine. This collector will be open until about Friday morning, and then I'll share the final word art image with you all in the afternoon. See some scanning, so I want to give you a second to open up that link. And also if we can put it in the chat, that would be fabulous. So now I would love to turn this conversation over to our panelists. I have Kelly with me today, Carrie Kinsey, and Kimberly Bridges. So I'd love for you each to quick introduce yourselves in like a sentence or two and share a little about the programs that you have on the Hartford Performs roster. Who wants to go first? Stop sharing.
Well, I first want to acknowledge all the K's in this panel. The letter K is popping and I like that. My name's Carrie Kinsey and I've been with Hartford Performs for several years now. I can't keep count. But I've been using and sharing movement as a language in all different populations in Hartford Public Schools. I have a shared abilities dance troupe with New Haven Ballet, and I work throughout the state teaching residencies in movement. Hi, Leslie. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Where's
Hey, I'm sorry, sorry. So I'm Kimberly Bridges. I'm over here trying to learn how to push buttons and stuff. So I'm Kimberly Bridges, and I teach life skills through the arts. Been teaching it for 30 years. Been with Hartford Performs, I want to say 7 to 8 years. Love it, love it, love it. Been to a lot of schools using the tools of dance, step, rap, singing, acting, poetry, and step to help self-esteem, any social issues that they might be going through, and all of that good stuff. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Kaim, the rap poet. I record as Self-Suffice as an artist, and I was at the first ever pilot meeting of Hartford Performs. So I'm actually 72 years old. I'll be 73 later this year. And I I try to do what Kim does in terms of rap and hip hop. It's so popular now, which is a good thing. But the bad thing is when things get popular, just the words and symbols get popular, but a lot of times they miss out on the meaning. So that's what I think our value is. Like, we really know what hip hop culture is, we know the principles, we know it's not, you know what I mean? It's not sex, drugs, violence, and money, but it's peace, love, unity, and fun. And just like all of y'all, we use our aesthetics to teach deeper principles and character development at the end of the day.
Wonderful. So thank you guys so much for introducing yourselves. I'm going to go one question at a time and give you each maybe 2 to 3 minutes to kind of answer, give any specific insights or examples that you've prepared. And since we only have 1 hour together today, I would encourage anyone else that wants to share their thoughts or their questions in the chat, and we'll include them in the notes that are getting shared out to everyone. And of course, if we can squeeze in 1 or 2 comments out loud, just raise your virtual hand and we'll see how we're doing on time. All right. So for my first question, since we kind of went Carrie, Kim, and then Kaim, well, I'm happy to keep going with that order. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be in schools this year?
Sure. So I am in an elementary school, collaborating with 21st Century to work with students here in Middletown in an after-school program. I've taught after-school programs before, but this year it's a little different. There's the energy is different. I've noticed that the children have forgotten how to be with each other or be in the space and soak up and imagine and wonder. And so I'm using all the skills I've learned over these years to try to keep them engaged and present and contributing. I think all of us can agree that what's created in the room, you can go in with a really great plan, but the children in the room and the environment that you're in pretty much informs what it is that you produce every day and over time. Yeah, I feel the children are holding on to a lot of the stressors and anxieties that we have as adults have had and continue to have, except they don't know how to articulate that or move it through their body and out. So I'm excited that we just move. We just move. We do a little writing, but we do a lot of moving. And it's been wonderful to see over the last few weeks the children work hard to go inside to create what we share on the outside.
There you are, Kim. You are still muted.
Okay.
So Kim, what's it been like for you in schools this year?
Um, Hard, very hard, because we're dealing with the remnants of COVID, depression, more bullying, more trying to fit in. So it's been hard. Yeah. So just trying to build self-esteem or whatever you can to uplift, um, and teaching unity and how to treat people. And been trying to give a lot of conversations through the arts with not giving up. Um, so yeah, it's hard. Burying a student that killed herself. Those things are hard. The violence is getting worse. Um, it's hard, but I love going in there doing what I do. I appreciate the opportunity that you guys give me to go into a new group of students and just explode with the arts. That's it.
Thank you. Pass it to you, Kaim.
It's like there's what it's been like for me personally is what I'm gonna speak to, but I've been kind of making observations about what I think it's been like for students. And then also I feel like I'm privileged because when I come into a school, it's not a normal day. So I'm aware that I can't really speak to like what it's like for the kids every day, you know? So number one, it's amazing and it's gratitude for me because I get to come in and be like a great program, you know what I'm saying? And I would offer that to any other teaching artists on the call, like just recognize that like you probably have the best possible experience in these schools. If you're coming in as a teaching artist, your residency is there for a while, and then you get to go to another school, you know? So I just want to recognize that privilege. And in saying that, like I've been enjoying it. Right before COVID is when I finally started like really documenting classes and passing out like permission waivers to take photos and things like that, which are not exciting things to do as an artist, but somehow like I've been doing this for years and finally I started doing that and boom, you know, like COVID shut things down. So it was interesting that I had finally gotten around to that, and I'm still having some of those practices of understanding like how I want things to look after they're done really helps inform what I do when I'm doing the residencies. And I will say that also right before COVID, all the way up to the college level, people got really into their phones from my observations. And teachers were struggling. Even some of us as artists were kind of struggling to be more exciting than TikTok. And I did notice that after COVID, there seems to be for many students, not all, an actual appreciation for eye contact and human interaction. It's like they had so much phones and weren't able to be human that I'm seeing kids dance like never before, move and be physical like never before. So these are just some of the observations that I noticed that are different from a previous year.
Thank you so much. And just a reminder to everyone, if you would like to respond to any of these questions in the chat, we would love to hear from you. What has your experience been like so far this year? How has it been for you? So definitely let us know. And I would love to know from our panelists as well, like given the state of the world and all of the things that you've been sharing so far, what do you think students need most from their adults, from their mentors to survive this, to thrive and overcome this?
Well,
go ahead, Carrie.
I think what was pretty cool a couple of weeks ago when we were all throwing out words about pandemic, and when you hear the word pandemic, where does it sit in your body? Where do you feel it? And what do you do? You know, so we all had words up on the board from kindergarten to fifth grade. And I said, okay, now let's think about something that made it better. What are some words that you can share that made it better? And, you know, the kids all sat, there wasn't a lot of response. And one little boy stood up and he said, love. And so we could all agree with that, you know? And so that was, that propelled us into a new, you know, frequency that day. And where did you find love when it was a hard day and you were nervous about breathing, or all these words that we had put together on this board, you know? And then we got to talk about how love and connection, that's what, you know, it conquers that, those fears that I think they all have, that we all have, you know.
A lot of the schools that I am, gotta judge them differently because I'm in different schools, whether it be suburban or in the city. So you're dealing with different issues. So when I just spoke, I spoke about the bulk of my schools that's in Hartford and what they're experiencing. Burying a student every other week. So you got to look at that piece of it. I agree with Carrie. Love and consistency. In our school system, teachers are leaving, they're transferring to this school. No one's really consistent. My dad's in jail, my mom's, no one's consistent. And the one thing, because of Hartford Performs, I am consistent. My same schools bring me back every year. And even last year during COVID, you guys figured it out. We did a 30-minute something. So love and consistency, relationship. You don't have a relationship, you don't have anything with them. So style, what you're bringing to the table. Are you coming for the paycheck, or are you coming in there because you really love what you do? And the kids respond to all of that. You know, just constantly feeding them those things you can use in the arts. And when you see the outcome as the kids are happy and having fun, the best part is, well, the hard part for me is not going back, but yeah, I won't talk about that. But just, I have to stay connected. It's more than work for me. I have to stay connected. Once we can open up the way we do, us three, we're here for a reason. And so many other teaching artists, I ran into one the other day, and I heard her sign in and I freaked out. I was like, I'm with Hartford Perform, what's your name? And, you know, she did African dance, I believe, and she was so beautiful. And she was there early. So all that too, when they see us together, how are we treating each other? That's a biggie, you know, with adults and the staff, and what are we saying to each other, and all that good stuff. But it's definitely different from school to school. You know, I go to Renzulli, I get something different. I go to Milner, totally different. So you got to know how to approach each one different. I'm sorry that we're going through this, but what are we going to do today? What are we going to do after today? So love and consistency and rewards, that's what I use.
Yeah, I want to echo that. Love, consistency are really the keys when we think about what do students need from adults. I always try to remember, like, when I was a kid, what was an adult to me as opposed to another kid, and what did I not like about adults, and what did I did like? What did I did like about adults, and what did I not like about adults? And one thing is that there's been a lot, because there's been, like, Black Lives Matter has started to matter in past years, publicly or trending. There's been a lot of emphasis on, like, the words equity and equality, which Hartford Performs did some actual programs on, but 99% of people don't know what race is, they don't know what equity is, they don't know, and they just confuse equity and equality. So there's a lot of emphasis on treating everyone the same. And this creates a lot of problems in general, but specifically for art, because art is about recognizing differences and having fun with differences. And when I think about what a great adult does, whether it's a parent or a teacher, but adults in general, you can look at your different children and your different students and you go, okay, I have all these PhDs in math. That doesn't mean that I know how to teach her and him and them how to get PhDs in math. It means hopefully I can apply how I got my PhD math in a way that they understood. I have a degree in computer science, which I only got because I had a love for hip hop culture, and I kept finding ways to apply hip hop all the way through my final degree in college, where I made a hip hop production software. Coding is very boring and tedious, in my opinion, but because I was doing it with a hip hop production software, it was fun to me. So I'm trying to figure out not how to make these students do hip hop or math. I'm trying to say, how do I help this kid learn the way I found a way for myself to learn, right? And that's what I think great adults do, is not just like be great, but like figure out how can I help this person find their greatness in a way they might be penalized in another classroom or by another adult. I think what I didn't like about adults was, you know, when they act like they're perfect and then you see they really have problems and they're stressed out all the time, but they're acting like they're perfect. And I think like to what Ms. Kim's point, thank you for saying some of the things we're going through. Like what I really loved about adults is when I saw adults who did have problems and stress and somehow still had, like what Carrie is saying, love. When I saw, wow, this person's going through all these things, these adults, like they can go through stress and problems, but still be loving and provide calm. So if I could, in a nutshell, say like those observations, it would be like being transparent, showing that I'm not perfect in any way to these students and saying, this is how I deal with not being perfect. And this is how I spread love, even though I'm a hateable person.
I just wanted to ask.
I think it's important too that even we're connecting art, we're connecting social studies, we're connecting all these, but I think I try to connect kids with opportunity, to see an opportunity, whatever the opportunity is, and how to see opportunity and embrace it and connect to it. I also find in teaching, now that we've returned after this COVID, that you can see when, we come in, a lot of teachers will, get something done or work on something else, but it's the staff and the teachers that stay and participate too, that it becomes an even richer time. I think they don't realize how nice it is to find your center, think about balance, and to take a breath. In that hour or 45 minutes that we share together, it's good for all of us. It should be a time when they participate. Students like to see their teachers and the adults in the room doing it with them, as opposed to get over there and stay there. I think for many of the students that I see, not just here in the school, but as I've been working, it's nice to also just be an observer. That's an important job. If you don't want to do it, observers, give everyone, a purpose. And if your purpose is going to sit out and observe, then that's wonderful. Just make sure you tell us what you noticed. Tell us what you noticed from our vocabulary or from our time, what we're sharing. Where did you see that taking place? It's an opportunity for everyone to give and to make that.
I just wanted to add on something.
Yep.
Everything Carrie was saying, right on point. Kaim, I have to shout out the teachers. And once again, depending on the school and depending on what's allowed and what's tolerated. And also shout out the Hartford Performs artists that have to go in and try to do some controlling of the behaviors to be able to teach a class. Some of the schools, one thing I do for sure is I say to the teachers, you go sit down. If you would like to participate, you jump in, but not as a teacher. you come in and just have fun, because we're all kids at heart. We want to have fun too. And you were so right, Carrie. The kids love to see their teachers get up there and, you know, all of those good things, but the teachers have a lot on their plate, a lot. And once again, programs like Hartford Performs, when we come in, that's the chance for them to breathe. A lot of them just say, you know what, I do want to just go over here and sit down. And I'll say, I'll call you when I need you for a game or two, but it's hard. I've watched teachers, you know, or be told, you know, by sometimes different people, oh, it's the teacher, it's the teacher, oh, the teacher. I've worked with some great teachers throughout the years. And it's hard when you have 28 students with 28 different personalities, with 28 different ways that you have to teach them and they have to learn. So I'm all for the teachers and going in and giving them a break anytime that I can. But you guys were so right on point with that.
It's nice to start off with, what can we throw away? I always say, let's put our foot down about some things. What do you want to put your foot down about? And that's great, going around a circle. Like, I didn't want to wear my mask today. Let's put our foot down. You know, what are you going to put your foot down, you know, today about? You can take things that are uncomfortable, you know, and turn it in a way that you can own it and have power over it, where it doesn't take over you. And I think showing, you know, modeling that, exercising that, and realizing, you know, your teacher wants to put down the chicken soup that she didn't want to eat, you know, she wanted the taco like you had at lunch today, whatever it is, you know, it makes us all real. And I don't know, I think a sense of connection, whether it's 45 minutes, but you know, we remember when we go into a school.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's actually a really great segue to my next series of questions about reading the tone in the room, right? How do you greet the students? How do you ask them to introduce themselves to you? How do you acknowledge the energy that's already in the room? How does it like set the tone for your lesson, or what do you do? So that was a great start. Would anyone else like to contribute to that? And again, in the chat, please let us know, how do you greet the students and acknowledge the tone? How do they introduce themselves to you?
Do you want me to go first? We just keep going.
Yeah, we get to keep going.
How do I greet? Well, first of all, I definitely get in the room and feel the energy. Even if they're not in there, energy stays in a room and it fills the room. You know, if it's thick, if it's moving. I work in psychiatric hospitals, and you can feel that when you go on to a unit, to what it's going to be like and what tools you need to bring in with you. I think I definitely go in and feel the room. And as the students come in, you can feel, you know, and sometimes I just let it ride. I mean, especially with an after school program, many of these students have been there since 8:30 in the morning. We're there from 4:30 to 6. It's 5. They're done, you know, they're done, and they're tired and they're hungry. And so I think meeting students where they're at is good. If it's low and slow, then we work with that first, but we try to bring it up, you know, because up is good too. But to honor that low and slow, I always say, you know, my kids, nobody wanted to do anything, so we did floor work, grounding. All right, we're just going to lay on the floor here and feel our connection to the earth. And what does that look like and feel like in your bodies? And how do you connect it, you know, to being a stalagmite or a stalactite? How can you do that, right? Yeah, I mean, I think I answered your question. Did I answer the question?
Yes, that was fabulous. Thank you. Thank you.
So can I go?
Ready?
Kayam, you want to go, or? So
No, I'll go after you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Kayam.
Thank you, my sister. I'm echoing every time you say something. I'm just like, yeah, what she said. Like, my answers are powered by yours.
So we go flip this time. Flip this time.
Okay, I'll flip it. So by the way, the comments in the chat are amazing.
Yes.
I actually want to tie into something Jasmine was saying and some of the people were saying in the chat with this question about how do we greet people in the room. I do start by greeting the teacher. I do find that, like when Ms. Kim was saying, if I'm in the urban or suburban or this school versus this, it can be drastically different. One thing that I've had to humbly admit through the years is my programs are 90% done by the teacher before I get there. And then the 10% I do is either reinforcing or fighting against the culture that teacher has created and that school has created. Some schools you go to the point Craig and many people were saying about teachers needing empathy, some schools you go to, the reason you're with that teacher is because like that's the one teacher in the school who's still thinking from a kid's perspective and not just being like, I am a teacher, but they're like, how can I use my teaching to help kids who seem like they're bad or forgotten? And they're trying to find ways to be different from whatever the school culture is. And you go in there as one person who's not going to penalize them or attack them. And maybe in my case, doesn't even have a teacher certification, you know what I mean? And if you go in there and like tell them what to do, or you're like, I'm a real artist and blah, 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 like, it's just you're another person that's telling this person with all these degrees and all this empathy and very low pay how they're wrong. So the first thing I really need to do when I go in schools is, first of all, be grateful that like I'm probably with one of the people in the school that appreciates me more than most people in society. You know what I mean? And they're reaching the kids that I'm trying to reach that think I'm gonna be cool for these 5 days. Like they're reaching them every single day, and these kids don't even appreciate them. There's no way, like all the way through the grad school classes I do, you just can't appreciate what a teacher's doing for you until years after they're done teaching you. So my first thing is to like greet that teacher and let them know, look, I'm here to help you. I'm here to say what you're saying to them and get you to write the referrals you want, the positive referrals you want to write for these kids to get them in colleges and whatever. And I'm just here to do it from a different perspective that supplements and enhances your perspective. I'm here to show them how cool you are. And one of the metaphors that I do when I go in classes is I explain kind of like Shakespeare said, but I explain like, except I use like the Black Eyed Peas as a metaphor. I use a hip hop one, but I explain how the classroom is like a stage. And one of the first things I say is like, who's the stars in here today? Or who's the feature here today? And sometimes they're like, you, us, but more and more they're like, are we the stars? And I'm like, yeah, who's the stars? You're the stars. But then I'm like, so who's the fans? And who's the VIP fans? And a lot of times the first day we have a conversation about VIP fans and why they pay so much ridiculous money. And it's not for the soda or to sit in the front. It's because they want the Black Eyed Peas or Carrie or Sonia to be able to do way more shows than they can afford to do with $50 tonight. And I talked to them about how their teacher, like, I'm a pretty cool fan of y'all, but I'm leaving and she's here with you for the whole year, right? So that's part of what I do. I just recognize that the only reason I have a platform and they're hearing me is because of the relationship they have with their teacher. And even though they might understand my culture and have fun with it more, that's only because they're being allowed to. It's being normalized by the teacher that they can be Black, Latina, Asian, hip hop, ballerina, all these things that I'm suggesting to them. The teacher's saying, yeah, what he's saying is okay. So that's a roundabout way of saying, like, the first thing I do is I just check the temperature. Obviously, like Kim said, a lot of people are passing away. I don't come in like screaming and jumping off tables if that's the mood. I also don't come in overly sad if they are trying to get happy too, because that's another thing you got to pay attention. Like sometimes they've been given all the sadness and grief and it's like they're kids and they want to be happy. So it's definitely first checking the temperature and not coming in with an agenda, but coming in with an ability to empathize with what they need. I'm sorry. I feel like I babbled too long. That's why I wanted you to go
That's
first.
good stuff. No, because listen, I part of my growth is sitting back and listening and learning. I don't know it all, so that's part of my growth. I want to hear. You said a lot, which just triggered some things in me. It's crazy because I believe, I don't know all of the teaching artists, but some of us are very, very lucky. I'll tell you why. Because the generation we're dealing with now, which is hip hop, I can speak for Kaim, we're hip hop. So that sells us when we walk in the room anyway, what we have on. And it's crazy because I'm the job that I'm about to get. I just had a meeting. It was like, you know, you're going to have to dress up. What? You know, you can't have your little swag for the kids. And I do all this for the kids, the crazy leggings. Even the way I talk, I have to know how to talk when it's time, because normally I'm talking the rap, that rap language that they can relate to. We know the swag that they know. What's up, bruh? So some of us are more luckier than other people that's probably trying to teach something that they have no interest in. So you might have to work a little bit more harder, but it's not hard. It's figuring out how you go about doing it. But you can't do it if you twist a drum machine with the African drums, or it's not hard to do. But when I walk in normally, my presence, I just see who's listening. I want to observe to see who's listening, who's following the teacher's instructions. And I'm just watching, because then I want to shout those people out. Thank you for coming in, and and everybody else, I know you're going to get on board. And then they're like, ooh, I like your shoes, and ooh. And after they say all that, because they think I'm famous, I'll say, you know what? These are my daughters. I can't afford none of this. I want them to know what's real. Once we do that, we go over the rules immediately. What I expect from you, and what I want to give, and respect both ways. So we want to go over the rules. If someone is not cooperating the way they should, we have a little space for you to sit over there for a little bit, things of that nature. If it's too out of control, because once again, it depends on where you are, what school you are. Middle school versus K-5. Middle school is the hardest because they all are trying to fit in with each other. So you got to really work hard to impress or reach the middle school. And normally the hip hop gets them. But I actually hit a bump in the road where there was a school where hip hop didn't get them. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? That's when I pulled out my phone and said, what song? We need a warm up song. So I always let them talk first. I always let them get my phone and type in a song that they want. And this is your time to talk to your friends, because when I start, it's going to be my time. And I want us to have some fun and turn our ears on. So if we just set those clear boundaries and expectations from the beginning, I'll say to the staff, I'm a firm believer in other people in the room not talking, because it's about that student. So I've had teachers, that will, still talk to each other, maybe get on their phone, and I'll ask nicely, or I make that clear to everybody in the room. Let's respect that what we're about to do with these kids, and I need to hear the kids. And that normally works pretty good. And just listening, and kids want you to listen. So I got the microphone, who wants to do what they know how to do. And, so that's the main thing. What are you bringing in? Sometimes if that doesn't work with the hip hop, you might want to start off with a treat. Oh, I like the way everyone sat down. I got some rewards. I know we can't have peanuts. So I normally have a bag full of gummy bears, Skittles. And then when they come up and line up, I'm doing everything far as following. I'm big on following instructions. So I'm teaching following instructions at the same time. So we're going to line up. But if we're not lined up, we have to go back down. I'm going to do, So they come up after I said, oh, good job. We're nice and quiet now. And they come up like this. I said, well, it's only one Skittle. It's just a taste. Okay. So you might have to start up with a reward depending on the grade. You might have to stay later and talk to some kids that you opened up. It's like they say about the African-American churches, you can't stop the Holy Ghost. And with me, I don't, if it means I'm late to my next appointment, if I've opened up a student, I had a student just start crying and didn't want to leave afterwards. Well, I needed to stay. So, and that's the job that we do. By all means necessary, we have to be there, especially now because the kids are going through so much. Where do I fit? Who am I? What is my sexuality? Like I said, that middle school is a beast, and just treating people good. So the way you come in, you know, I go and decorate it. I might change this wig to purple another day. And they're like, Miss, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. You got to sell yourself. And then I just get started.
Thank you. Thank you all for all of that. Yes, I love hearing how we're elevating teachers. We're reinforcing the school rules that are already in place, that there are so many different ways to give positive reinforcement to students and encourage them, respecting their voice and the softness that they're bringing to you. I'm loving hearing all of that.
Can I just add one more thing to that? I meant to say, the teachers, a big one, when you come in with the teachers, they want the respect that you get. A lot of them, they want the respect. So what I always do is I put it back on the teacher. Your teacher's great. She's with you more than your parents. I always, oh, look how nice the room is. Oh, you want to really, because these teachers need it. Like how many of them get praise, you know, as a supervisor? You know, how many of them are told, you know, and they're coming in there working so hard. So that's one thing I try to take the attention off of me, because I don't need or want praise. And I put it on to the teacher. I wanted to shout out one teacher at Bird School, Kimberly West, her theater arts class and the setup and how she takes attendance and just very consistent. You want to always put it back on the teacher and the kid. Always find something good. I might look at their shoes, their hair. Oh, I like your hair today. And I'll just stop out of nowhere. You know, that's the Gemini thing. But anyway, sorry.
Makes them feel seen though. And I think that's really important. All of their differences, all of their magic. I think
yes, I was that kid. So
yes. And that
like
definitely
said, when you was a kid,
beautifully to that last question, which you've already alluded to, but I would also love to hear back from Carrie, from Kaim, anyone else, please continue in the chat about this creating positive feedback in the classroom. How do you do that? How do you encourage positive feedback when they're sharing their stories or sharing whatever it is that they've created, this new choreography or this rap, or they're spilling their souls? Like, how do you do it and build this positive classroom community? Because Kim, you're absolutely right? The teachers are also observing you. They are watching. So how are you doing it and inspiring them to do it themselves?
Well, I think it's pretty cool to turn to the person to your left or right and tell me something, share something you like about them, whatever it is. Tell me some things that you see that you like. It feels at first like, oh, you know, with the younger kids, they're like, oh, I don't know, you know, they get nervous. But it feels good to be noticed, right? It feels good to be celebrated, whether it's for your hair design, whether it's for your ability to be a good friend. You know, you get that a lot. You know, she's a good friend. She helps me at lunch. We talk on the bus. We walk to class together. I think those hearing it from each other as opposed to the adults in the room, you know, I think is has its own rewards to it for sure. I mean, in anything, just trying, you know, I think I learned this working with Judy Doran when I was at Trinity. You know, there's no wrong answers. When I come in and I introduce myself, I say, guess what? Spelling doesn't count here because I can't spell. You know, and there's no wrong answers. As long as we're safe and we're kind, there's really no wrong answer. So you set the tone, you know, if that's the start, then you can only, you know, you can only get bigger from there.
Thank you. Kaim, what do you think? How do you build that positive community, that feedback in the classroom?
I'll tie this into something Sonia said about, and something that I don't experience, non-BIPOC or non-Black Indigenous people of color in the classroom dealing with issues of racism or of what I imagine is almost like, I'm not even trying to hear you at times. So one, like, can a white teacher be in a space with Black students and say, like, I hear you. You're having this conversation with me here, as opposed to what we've seen many times, which is like, since I'm a white teacher, when this happens, that doesn't apply to me. So you being in the school doesn't apply either. Just walk out the building. That's what we hear as a Black student, you know, when white teachers are like, oh, I'll let you have your discussion. You're a teacher, right? Like, you are the magical thing, whether you want to believe it or not. At this age, even when they're mad at you because they think you can take it, and you can. That's why you are a teacher in the school. So you don't want to just tune out, right? Because that's saying like, everything's fine except for like the most important thing that's happening right now in your life. We're just going to get back to this math problem. And on the other hand, I imagine you're dealing with the idea of like those who don't respect you, right? Because they're like, you don't respect me, just off the bat, we're not going to agree. I'm not going to listen to you. My daddy told me not to listen to you. Just do the work and get the grade, what have you. And I think that needs to be addressed too, where it's like, it's not really going to be just sticking in there and showing that I'm a nice person like that. I think it really is going to be leaning into those conversations, not as an authority, but as like what I was thinking when I was a kid, what I like about adults, I like that they could be calm and loving under pressure. And I know so many students of color that love some of their white teachers, not because they're experts on race, because at some point they were like, wow, Mr. So-and-so really lets us express ourselves, even though he doesn't have that experience. Miss So-and-so like hosts these conversations and she helps moderate, but she doesn't tell us like our feelings are wrong or the words we say are wrong. A perfect example I say, just to put a pin on this part of it, is like the N-word, you know, like there's a really great white teacher at one of the schools I was in. I'm only saying white because it's contextual. Like, I just see teachers as amazing human beings, but in this context, you know what I mean? There's this white teacher and she's an amazing teacher. She loves the students, but then she went on this rant about the N-word. And that really wasn't her place, because ultimately none of these kids made the F word, the B word, any of these words. We didn't even make them. Our grandparents made them. And then people had trauma that even made them sound like dangerous words, because they were associated with like cursing and murder and rape and terrible things that kids shouldn't even know about. So it doesn't make sense for a white teacher to like go on a rant about Black kids using the N-word, as much as it does to feel like you can say what you want to say around me when it's appropriate. But what's behind this? If you're saying N-word like in a fight, what was that fight about? Like, you can come to me, I care about what you're mad about, let's talk about it. If it was N-word like, hey, N-word, this and that, then it's not the time to be like, that's a horrible word. You know, if you find them having joy, like,
I don't know, Kaim.
There's things like that.
Kaim, I think that, you know, the whole word, I mean, I don't get wrapped up in it in my classrooms, because I feel like, you know, everybody says, well, it's in the songs and everyone's saying it, and how come you can say it and I can't say it? I don't know. I think BIPOC people, Black people in general, I mean, we've had so much taken away from us. We're going to keep our word and we're going to say it and we're going to use it and we're going to move along. You know, I don't, you know, it comes from somewhere, and I feel like trying to regulate and monitor how and when it gets used, I think is really touchy. You know, I think it's touchy in a classroom.
It's very touchy.
And so, you know, I think not in just that context, but any context, I can't help it if, you know, your auntie was a crackhead and your brother was a gang member, or your mom is. We can't change those things. We can't change what's happening. But what we can teach you is how to change how you react to it, right? How we can stay centered and balanced and focused, so that when things come up, you aren't thrown off balance by it, because they're going to come up. It's going to be, and it's going to exist. And I don't think it's going anywhere. So
Harry, I gotta chime in on the, if your brother was a gangster, or if your mother was a gangster, I'm amazed at how many youth like that have been in gangs that I've worked with, whose mothers were involved in gangs, like that either their mom was a gangster or was involved in it. And there's this thing where teachers would always go, well, what would your mother think of this? And it's a complete lack of understanding of like how kids actually, like kids who are really in gangs, how they get involved. They're very young. Usually there's a whole family relationship with it. It's not like the kids just acting up to be rude in your class and ruin your day. Like usually their family is entrenched, and it's related to economics and the deeper things. So I'm glad what you said about the touchiness of the N-word, because I don't want to make this whole thing about it, but like,
well, it's a teachable moment, right?
That's why
it's a teachable moment.
There are a lot of teachable moments in the classroom, right?
It's a perfect example, because if we can apply that to that word, I feel like we could apply that to everything else, which is to say, like, even if the kid has a different background of you, you're not supposed to be an expert, and you're not supposed to agree. You're not supposed to go down the block like, yeah, my N-words, we in the school, I'm the cool teacher, N-word. Don't do that. It's just like, don't try to fix everything the kids are doing. As much as what kids really admire about adults and feel comfortable is when they feel, I can talk to you about what's behind these things. I don't have language yet. I'm a kid, but can I practice using language with you? And as we build up towards expanding my vocabulary.
Yes,
right?
Thank you. I'm so sorry I have to cut in there, but yes, I agree with you so much. I know. I want to throw it back to Kim and hear if you have any last words, Kim, on how you create positive community within the classroom.
I just wanted to comment on something Carrie said real quick. Is that okay? Just really quick.
30 seconds.
Carrie, I like what you said about it's how you react, because they're going to see and hear all types of things for the rest of their life. And that's the best thing you could have said to me today, because I react wrong at times. I'm not perfect. And that's another thing we need to do, is show the kids we're not perfect. I show them, I tell them what's real. We don't have time to pet our kids. We don't have time to sugarcoat it. What's real is I need to make changes, and it's my big change is how I react to something. You're going to hear it. A kid is going to curse you out, whatever, how you react to it. And I just wanted to throw that out. Yes, that's going to help me in my new job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. If anyone else has feedback on how you create positive classroom environments, you are welcome to put that in the chat for our notes. Again, this will be sent out to everyone afterward.
That's a fast hour.
I know, it always goes by so fast when we're spending time together. Thank you all. So today we were really talking about teaching that whole child, right? And creating those inclusive classroom communities. And it sounds like our collective definition includes so many more things than what is currently on that chart. So please continue contributing to that word art. Any words, any phrases, anything that comes to mind about what it might feel like and look like in the classroom for students to have a holistic and positive experience with you. So we've got a few minutes left. And as some of you may have heard by now, this is actually going to be my last week with Hartford Performs on the administrative team. I'm going to be transitioning onto a new adventure with Heartbeat Ensemble, and I intend to continue working with all of you in one capacity or another. So thank you so much for sharing your stories.
Hold up, you are not just going to throw that out there and leave me. Who am I going to call, Janika? This is
we can talk later, Kim.
I'm about to call you as soon as we hang up. Janika, who's going to hold my hand through all of this?
We can talk later. So silly.
Listen, I'm calling you in 2 seconds.
Thank you all for joining us today and surviving this pandemic with us. I've learned so much from all of you and appreciate all the magical things you do for Hartford students through Hartford Performs and elsewhere. So I will absolutely share my new email address in the chat if you want to connect with me or see what I'm up to. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of the school year. I know we are right upon 3 o'clock. So if you do have to go, I totally respect that. If you are able to stay on and want to hear from Emily about the database updates and what we've been working on for you, you are welcome to stay tuned.
Thanks, Janika, and congratulations. We obviously at Hartford Performs are heartbroken and equally excited for Heartbeat Ensemble and Janika's new adventures and ventures there. So thank you. Carrie, Kim, and Kaim, what a wealth of information and just the conversation. And to be witness to that and hear that is much appreciated. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Oh my goodness. We will share all of this along with the recording of this session. Again, if you need to go, this is going to continue to be recorded, but I did want to share some updates to the database that we have been hard at working on, specifically when you add, I'm going to screen share here, and I'm using this test program to show you when adding in program dates, which is a very important part to being paid and for us to know that you have scheduled your programs. So as you know, when you add, when you've confirmed a date with your cooperating teacher, you find your voucher, you click on view booking details, which opens up this little pop-up box. Everybody can see that. Sorry. And here's where you add in your new date. It is very similar to how it has been before. You click on the date, you enter your start time, and then your end time. And we have a new feature where you can add additional dates. If you have a multi-day visit, multi-day program, you can click add additional date. Ooh, and it will pop up another box for you to then add more dates in here. You can also remove that additional date if you made a mistake. Make sure that you hit save like always, and you also have this new checkbox. If you click it, it's going to send an email to your cooperating lead teacher with these dates that you've entered. If you need to make edits and you don't want to send them another email, you just uncheck that box. But you can check it, and when you hit save, it'll send them an email with the new dates. So that is one new feature.
I have a question for you, Emily.
Yes, go ahead.
So teachers that are in special education programs, how do they see that a program might be good for their classrooms? How can they search that?
That is a feature that we are working on and hope to have up.
Okay,
That's a great question.
Funny.
It's a question we have also asked ourselves. And so we are hoping to have that as a filter when teachers select programs at the start of the year.
Because I think, you know, in my experience in working in special needs classrooms is that they often hear about us by accident. I think that you know, their students are also open to have us come into the classrooms. But I think that sometimes the special ed teachers are in a different world and a frequency and often get aren't always included, and I don't even know that it's intentional, right? Invisible, like the populations that they serve. And so I guess I would just advocate for the students and for the teachers that there be a way that they can see out of all these, you know, great teaching artists who would be available to come work with them and their students.
Absolutely. I'm with you. Equitable access to the arts for all students. That is our goal. I love it, Carrie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So one new feature, so this is the same box where I just entered in those new dates. A new feature you have now here is an edit date button. So you don't have to delete this date and put in a new one. You can just hit edit date
Let me just
and
say
fix
thank
it.
you for that before we move on. Like, there's a couple things I could complain about, and that has been one of them. So
I know. I'm glad. I appreciate that. And I have to acknowledge Janika as being a part of these changes too. So it's been a team effort. If you
Janika, you might need to stay a little bit longer. We need to get this thing.
even if you have notes in this box, you should be able to, the notes will not go away. So you can make edits, the notes will stay in there. You can edit the notes. I know Adelka, you were asking about that. She's still on this meeting, yes. So ask, let us know how we can improve things. Your feedback, you know, Hartford Performs is all of you, and we're better together, learning from each other. So Kaim, your feedback has pushed us to make these changes too.
Well, Emily, I just learned how to use this thanks to Janika holding my hand. So please don't change anything else because I know how to do this right here.
Good.
Janika, thank you so much for answering my calls, for just holding my hand. Thank you. I really appreciate. Emily, you already know how I feel about you. Thank you guys for holding my hand. Kaim, in case you guys don't know, I'm probably the slowest member of Hartford Performs with the knowledge of the computer, and you know, because for years it's just been Kim work with the kids. They never really gave me training, but these two women, as well as some that have left the agency, has held my hand literally. Yeah, so I appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. I think
Emily
that's,
Ruth,
yeah.
Emily Ruth asked to
Yes.
see the edit date again, please.
Oh, okay. Yes, I can show that again. I'll pull up the test.
I have to prepare for a Zumba class that's getting ready to come in here, so I have to jump
Yes,
off.
no
It was
problem.
really, I appreciate, you know, seeing
Me
all the
too.
teaching artists in one space was pretty special. Sometimes you feel when you're a teaching artist that you're one out in the field of, you know, dreams, but seeing everybody together feels good, and it feels good.
Can we have a party?
Yeah.
So
We could use my studio.
our last arts provider meeting of the year, we were hoping for a celebration, and we're gonna take a temperature poll on how people feel, possibly getting together in person, maybe something outside, as the weather gets warmer. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for that, for sure. Okay, so you're in your booking detail information. Here's the edit date button over here. Click it and it just pops open. You can change the date, add notes. If this meeting is a planning meeting, you can check that box if you would like, and then you're going to hit save date after you make your edits. And should pop back up in a moment. I am now remembering another feature. So let's say that this date was a snow date. Let's say that there was a snow day, but your voucher got created. What you're going to do if there's a snow day is pause your voucher, pause your payment voucher. That lets us know that it didn't happen and you're rescheduling with the teacher. And then once you confirm that new date that you're going to go back, you're going to come back in here and you could just edit the date that didn't happen. So if this was the snow date, I'm going to edit it for a new date. Okay, this is now going to happen March 15th at 8, March 15th to 12, 11, 12, there we go. And then I'm going to hit save. And that's going to restart your payment voucher. So you don't have to unpause it. It's just going to automatically get recreated again on March 15th when that makeup date happens.
Okay, Emily, I've done the changing of the date, but I missed the part where you paused it. How did you do that?
That's in your voucher. So if the voucher gets created, if it's like the day of your program and you get a voucher,
Oh, if it literally gets, I got you.
if it literally is there, you say, you
Yeah,
answer,
yeah.
no, the program doesn't happen, and then you select pause from the
Okay.
drop-down menu. Yep,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Got you.
All right. Any other questions? I'm not seeing the chat. Let's see. Edit features helpful. Glad, great to hear.
No other questions in the chat about that, Emily.
Okay, perfect. Well, I think that's it. Thank you all so much. Again, be on the lookout. We'll send this recording and notes, and we'll let you know about our last quarterly meeting, possibly in person, to celebrate a tough year. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Janika. Great to see you all.
Thank you.